The varying cultures collectively called Mound Builders were inhabitants of North America who, during a 5,000-year period, constructed various styles of earthen mounds for religious and ceremonial, burial, and elite residential purposes. These included the Pre-Columbian cultures of the Archaic period, Woodland period, and Mississippian period, dating from roughly 3500 BCE to the 16th century CE, and living in regions of the Great Lakes, the Ohio River Valley, and the Mississippi River Valley and its tributary waters. Since the 19th century, the prevailing scholarly consensus has been that the mounds were constructed by indigenous peoples of the Americas. 16th-century Spanish explorers made contact with natives living in a number of later Mississippian cities, described their cultures, and left artifacts. By the time of United States westward expansion 200 years later, Native Americans were generally not knowledgeable about the civilizations that produced the mounds. Research and study of these cultures and peoples has been based mostly on archaeology and anthropology. Name and culture. At one time, the term mound builder was applied to the people believed to have constructed these earthworks. In the 16th through 19th centuries, Europeans and Americans generally thought that a people other than one related to the historic Native Americans had built the mounds. The namesake cultural trait of the mound builders was the building of mounds and other earthworks. These burial and ceremonial structures were typically flat-topped pyramids or platform mounds, flat-topped or rounded cones, elongated ridges, and sometimes a variety of other forms. They were generally built as a part of complex villages that arose from more dense populations, with a specialization of skills and knowledge. The early earthworks built in Louisiana c. 3500 BCE are the only ones known to be built by a hunter-gatherer culture. The best-known flat-topped pyramidal structure, which at over 100 feet tall is the largest pre-Columbian earthwork north of Mexico, is Monk's Mound at Cahokia Indian Mounds in present-day Collinsville, Illinois. At its peak about 1150 CE, Cahokia was an urban settlement with 20,000–30,000 people. This population was not exceeded by North American European settlements until after 1800. Some effigy mounds were constructed in the shapes or outlines of culturally significant animals. The most famous effigy mound, Serpent Mound in southern Ohio, ranges from 1 to just over 3 feet tall, 20 feet wide, over 1,330 feet long, and shaped as an undulating serpent. Many different tribal groups and chiefdoms, involving an array of beliefs and unique cultures over thousands of years, built mounds as expressions of their cultures. The general term, mound builder, covered the shared architectural practice of earthwork mound construction. This practice, believed to be associated with a cosmology that had a cross-cultural appeal, may indicate common cultural antecedents. The first mound building was an early marker of political and social complexity among the cultures in the eastern United States. Watson Brake in Louisiana, constructed about 3500 BCE during the Middle Archaic period, is the oldest dated mound complex in North America. It is one of 11 mound complexes from this period found in the lower Mississippi Valley. Archaeological surveys. The most complete reference for these earthworks is Ancient Monuments of the Mississippi Valley, written by Ephraim G. Squire and Edwin H. Davis. It was published in 1848 by the Smithsonian. Since many of the features which the authors documented have since been destroyed or diminished by farming and development, their surveys, sketches, and descriptions are still used by modern archaeologists. All of the sites which they identified as located in Kentucky came from the manuscripts of C.S. Rafinesque. A smaller regional study in 1931 by author and archaeologist Fred Dustin charted and examined the mounds and Ogumore earthworks near Saginaw, Michigan. Archaeological survey and recording of mounds is an ongoing scholarly task. Reports of early European explorers Hernando de Soto, the Spanish conquistador who in 1540 to 1542 traversed what became the southeast United States, encountered many different mound builder peoples, perhaps descendants of the great Mississippian culture. The mound building tradition was still alive in the southeast during the mid-16th century. De Soto observed people living in fortified towns with lofty mounds and plazas, and surmised that many of the mounds served as foundations for priestly temples. Near present-day Augusta, Georgia, De Soto encountered a mound-building group ruled over by a queen, Archaic. She told him that the mounds within her territory served as the burial places for nobles. The artist Jacques Lemoyne, who had accompanied French settlers to northeastern Florida in the 1560s, likewise noted many Native American groups using existing mounds and constructing others. He produced a series of watercolor paintings depicting scenes of native life. Although most of his paintings have been lost, some engravings were copied from the originals and published in 1591 by a Flemish company. Among these is a depiction of the burial of an Aboriginal Floridian tribal chief, an occasion of great mourning and ceremony. The original caption reads, Mathurine Lepeti, a Jesuit priest, came in contact with the Natchez as did Le Page du Prats, a French explorer. Both observed them in the area that later became Mississippi. The Natchez were devout worshippers of the sun. Having a population of some 4,000, they occupied at least 9 villages and were presided over by a paramount chief, known as the Great Sun, who wielded absolute power. Both observers noted the high temple mounds which the Natchez had built so that the Great Sun could commune with God, the Sun. His large residence was built atop the highest mound. From later explorers to the same regions, only a few decades after mound-building settlements had been reported, found the regions largely depopulated, the residents vanished, and the mounds intended. Since there had been little violent conflict with Europeans during that period, the most plausible explanation is that new Eurasian infectious diseases, such as smallpox and influenza, had decimated most of the Native Americans who had comprised the last mound-builder civilization. Mound-building cultures. Archaic-era radiocarbon dating has established the age of the earliest archaic mound complex in southeastern Louisiana. One of the 2 Montesano site mounds, excavated in 1967 before being destroyed during new construction at Baton Rouge, was dated at 6220 BP. Researchers at the time thought that such societies were not organizationally capable of this type construction. It has since been dated as about 6500 BP, or 4500 BCE, although not all agree. Watson Break is located in the floodplain of the Washita River near Monroe in northern Louisiana, securely dated to about 5,400 years ago. In the Middle Archaic period, it consists of a formation of 11 mounds from 3 to 25 feet tall, connected by ridges to form an oval nearly 900 feet across. In the Americas, building of complex earthwork mounds started at an early date, well before the pyramids of Egypt were constructed. Watson Break was under construction nearly 2,000 years before the better-known Poverty Point, and building went on for 500 years. Middle Archaic mound construction appeared to cease about 2800 BC, and scholars have not ascertained the reason, but it may have been because of changes in river patterns or other environmental factors. With the 1990s dating of Watson Break and similar complexes, scholars established that pre-agricultural, pre-ceramic American societies could organize to accomplish complex construction over extended periods of time, overturning scholars' understanding of traditional models of archaic society. Watson Break was built by a hunter-gatherer society whose people occupied the area on only a seasonal basis, but where successive generations organized to build the complex mounds over a 500-year period. Their food consisted mostly of fish and air, as well as available plants. built about 1500 BC. Poverty Point in Louisiana is a prominent example of late Archaic mound builder construction. It is a striking complex of more than 1 square mile, where 6 earthwork crescent ridges were built in concentric arrangement, interrupted by radial aisles. 3 mounds are also part of the main complex, and evidence of residences extends for about 3 miles along the bank of Bayou Macon. It is the major site among 100 associated with the Poverty Point culture and is one of the best-known early examples of earthwork monumental architecture. Unlike the localized societies during the Middle Archaic, this culture showed evidence of a wide trading network outside its area, which is one of its distinguishing characteristics. Woodland period. The Archaic period was followed by the Woodland period. Some well-understood examples are the Adena culture of Ohio, West Virginia, and nearby states. The subsequent Hopewell culture built monuments from present-day Illinois to Ohio. It is renowned for its geometric earthworks. The Adena and Hopewell were not the only mound-building peoples during this time period. During this time period, in parts of present-day Mississippi, Arkansas, and Louisiana, the Hopewellian Marksville culture declined and gave way to the Baytown culture. Reasons for decline include attacks from other tribes or the impact of severe climatic changes undermining agriculture. Coles Creek culture, or the Coles Creek culture, is a late woodland culture in the lower Mississippi Valley in the southern United States that marks a significant change in the cultural history of the area. Population and cultural and political complexity increased, especially by the end of the Coles Creek period. Although many of the classic traits of chiefdom societies were not yet manifested, by 1000 CE the formation of simple elite polities had begun. Coles Creek sites are found in Arkansas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, Mississippi and Texas. The Coles Creek culture is considered ancestral to the Plaquemine culture. Mississippian cultures around 900–1450 CE. The Mississippian culture developed and spread through the eastern United States, primarily along the river valleys. The largest regional center where the Mississippian culture is first clearly developed is located in Illinois and is referred to today as Cahokia, beneath East Street. Louis was the capital of a large region stretching from Louisiana to Wisconsin. It had several regional variants including the Middle Mississippian culture of Cahokia, the South Appalachian Mississippian variant at Moundville and Etowah, the Plaquemine Mississippian variant in South Louisiana and Mississippi, and the Caddoan Mississippian culture of northwestern Louisiana, eastern Texas, and southwestern Arkansas. Like the mound builders of the Ohio, these people built gigantic mounds as burial and ceremonial places. Fort Ancient culture, or Fort Ancient, is the name for a Native American culture that flourished from 1000 to 1650 CE among the people who predominantly inhabited land along the Ohio River in areas of southern modern-day Ohio, northern Kentucky and western West Virginia. Scholars once thought this was an expansion of the Mississippian cultures, but they now believe the Fort Ancient culture was an independently developed culture descended from the Hopewell culture. Plaquemine culture. This was an archaeological culture in the lower Mississippi River Valley in western Mississippi and eastern Louisiana. Good examples of this culture's constructions are found at the Medora site in West Baton Rouge Parish, La, and the Anna, Emerald Mound, Winterville and Holly Bluff sites in Mississippi. Plaquemine culture was contemporaneous with the Middle Mississippian culture at the Cahokia site in Illinois. It is considered ancestral to the historic Natchez and Terensa peoples encountered by Europeans. Hopewell traditions. Troyville culture and Baytown culture. Coles Creek culture. Mississippian culture. Caddoan Mississippian culture. Fort Ancient culture. Plaquemine culture.